Good girl. Good girl. You can teach anything to your cat using clicker training. Let's jump into it. There are two types of operant conditioning. At a high level, reinforcement is a process by which we encourage a particular behavior so that it happens more often in the future. Positive reinforcement offers an appetitive stimulus after a behavior that we want to see more often, and negative reinforcement removes a nauseous stimulus after a behavior that we want to see more often. So in both cases, the subject exposed to this stimulus is improving their general well-being after they do the behavior that we want to see more often. On the flip side, punishment is the process by which you discourage a behavior from happening again in the future. When we train our cats, we mostly use positive reinforcement, which is built on the premise discovered by B.F. Skinner that behaviors that are rewarded are likely to be repeated. When we're using positive reinforcement in combination with a clicker to mark the behaviors that we want to reward, we're doing clicker training. If you're already subscribed to this channel, you most likely know what clicker training is. But in case that you are not, two things. First, subscribe. Second, let me briefly explain you what clicker training is and how it works. Clicker training is nothing more than priming your cat with the knowledge that after a click comes a reward. When are we going to click? After the cat does the behavior that we want to see repeated more often. The 3 steps process that you need to follow to train your cat clicker training are 1. Charge the clicker, 2. Click or mark the behaviors that you want to see repeated in the future, and 3. Find ways to encourage your cat to do a certain behavior so that you can click and reward them for that. This is a very brief explanation of what clicker training is. If it's the first time that you're hearing about clicker training, I really encourage you to watch this video first to learn what clicker training is, how to get things done right, and after that, you can come back to this video. Let's assume that if you're watching this video at this point, you know what clicker training is, your clicker is charged, and your cat is ready to learn a complex trick. And what is a complex trick? A complex trick is a trick that your cat cannot learn in one go. And to solve that problem, we gotta get creative. There's a 3 steps process that I like to follow. First, how many and what steps are going to get our cat to perform the desired outcome. And we're gonna call that the path of least resistance. The second step is to define games that are going to get our cat to perform on their own the behaviors that we have defined in the previous. And third, pivot and course correct. If there's a step where our cat gets stuck or there's a game that it's not working, we need to be able to identify that and find a different step or a different game to achieve that behavior. The time and duration of a session has to be adapted to your cat's overall interest and mood. Cats have a shorter attention span than us, and they like doing things the way that they want, when they want it, how they want it. So if the trick that we're trying to teach our cat is very complex, we're definitely going to need more than one session. Some tricks can even take weeks to teach. Let me use shoulder training as an example for creating the path of least resistance. The first thing that I want to achieve is at least getting our cat close to our shoulder. Let's put as a milestone maybe getting our cat to put 2 paws on our shoulder. Then probably a second step could be getting our cat to put 4 paws on our shoulder, like standing there. The third step could be get our cat to jump on our shoulders on their own. And finally, the end trick, it's getting our cat to jump on our shoulders from the floor while we are standing. Now we need to create games to encourage our cat to perform the behaviors that are going to get them the click. One important note here, only behaviors that our cat is doing on their own are going to be behaviors that our cat is going to be able to repeat. So do not touch your cat when you're playing these games. You need to find a game that is going to encourage your cat to do the behavior on their own. So, step number 1, we need to get our cats to touch our shoulders with 2 paws. How can we achieve that? Feel free to pause the video and think of ways that you could create a game to encourage your cat to touch your shoulder with 2 paws. For instance, in the setting that I have here behind me, a great way to achieve that is to place Mia on the shelf, just do a couple steps back, take a treat, get it close to her, and force her that in order to get the treat, she has to put 2 paws on my shoulder. Let's try it out. Come here. No. Ow. Ow. Good girl. I got a little scratch, but this counts. She put 2 paws on my shoulder on her own, and then I click and I reward. Because there's so much going on with the lights, the mic, the camera, I made a mistake, and it's that it took too long for me to click when Mia performed the behavior that I wanted. I should have clicked right at the time where Mia put her second paw on my shoulder, and it took a slight second for me to reward the behavior, to mark the behavior, and that can create confusion. You can go back and check it out if you don't know what I'm talking about. Okay, so this was my game. This is the way I found to get Mia to put 2 paws on my shoulder. Is this the same idea that you had? If it is not, please leave it in the comment section below. I would love to know what creative ways did you find to get your cat to put 2 paws on your shoulder. Okay, let's go for the second step. The second step that we defined was having our cat with 4 paws on our shoulder. And again, feel free to pause the video and think of creative ways that you could achieve that. There are certainly many ways to achieve the same result, but the game that I decided to use to get Mia to have 4 paws on my shoulder was doing the same exercise that I did before, get 2 paws, and then with the treats still in my hand, get slightly farther from the shelf so that Mia had to come on top of my shoulder to achieve that treat. Okay, it was very bad, but she did it. I guess it counts. And on and on. I don't want to teach you the full process of teaching your cat to jump on your shoulder because there's already a video for that. So if you want to train your cat to jump on your shoulder, you can click the link here. Otherwise, let's continue with this video. Let's put another example. How do we get our cats to jump through our arms, forming a circle? I would first separate this trick in easy steps. And then I will try to define games to get Mia to do these on their own using operant conditioning. Let's first define the small steps on the problem. Step number 1 would be to get Mia over my arm. Step number 2 would be to raise my arm just enough so that Mia cannot crawl underneath but has to do a higher step to go over my arm. The third step would be to raise my arm even more, and now the cat has 2 options. They can choose to go underneath or over our arm. The trick is going to try to convince them to go over our arm because they're going to be rewarded for it. And finally, the fourth step, once our cat is already jumping, we add the second one, and this is going to be the trigger for the behavior. Now that we have defined the steps, we need to find games to convince our cat to do these behaviors on their own. In this case, the trick is fairly simple because we can use finger targeting to draw our cat from one side to the arm to the other one. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Good girl. Training your cat is going to help them be more social, less anxious, and overall more content. I've created a playlist with the best clicker training tutorials that we have in our channel. You can check that out here. And the YouTube algorithm thinks that you want to watch that one next, so you can also check it out. If you like this video, if you like our content, share it with a friend. You're making us a favor by spreading our word, and you're helping your crazy cat friend to do more with their cat. Stay wild, stay safe, see you next time.